And my name is Cindy Huber, and I'm with the National Kidney Foundation of Wisconsin. And welcome to those of you that are here in the room in Milwaukee. And for those of you that are joining us online, our awesome recipient volunteers, Merle and John, are here in the room, and they'll be able to see your questions that you'll type in. Merle will give you some instructions or reminders for those of you that are joining us online, and those will be relayed to our speaker, Pam. Well, Happy New Year to all of you, and welcome. So the Living Well programs, most of you, at least here in the room, know that these are monthly programs that we do. We try to pick topics that are relevant for folks that are even considering transplant, as well as those post-transplant. And we welcome people with any kind of organ transplant and their caregivers and spouses and friends. So welcome. The folks in the rooms have met each other, and we have a variety of people. We have some folks that are at some middle stages of chronic kidney disease. We have some heart recipients, kidney, liver recipients here in the room, so thanks. Our speaker tonight, last January, we did a program on, and I asked a physician to come because the new year always we think about things we want to do just a little bit differently. But it occurred to me one day that no one really asks some of the professionals, like, what's really on their minds. So last January, we did a program, and I put the challenge out there to a transplant physician that follows people after transplant. What questions does he wish patients would really ask him? And after he sent me an email saying, this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Usually I'm telling people kind of clinical information or answering a specific medical question. So this year, since it's January again, I thought, I wonder what dietitians really wish people would ask them. Because they are some of the smartest people in the room, I've discovered, and contribute a lot to our overall health, whether we've had a transplant or not. As all of you know, diet, food, nutrition plays a critical role in the quality of our lives. So I'm thrilled that Pam is here tonight. And now we're going to see kind of what's inside her head and what she wishes all of not only her patients, but she's going to challenge people, any recipient, no matter where your transplant center is, to not be afraid to ask about. So welcome, Pam.
Thank you. So my name is Pam Klossowski. You can call me Pam K if you want. That's kind of a hard name to say. I am one of, let's see, 6 transplant dietitians at Froedtert Hospital. So I am one of the outpatient dietitians. I have a helper that comes and helps me a couple days a week in the outpatient world. And we take care of all the pre-kidney, pre-liver, pre-heart, pre-pancreas, pre-lung. We take care of all the pre-patients that are looking to become qualified to get an organ. So we look at their nutritional status. And then we look at after transplant. And then they're coming in to see their doctors and their coordinators, and we're helping them with all of the diet changes that they have to make afterwards. So that's what we do as outpatient dietitians. And then we have 4 inpatient dietitians that are working with all the transplant patients on getting their nutrition up after transplant, whether they need tube feeding or whether they're eating a diet, and helping them, teaching them about the diet before they go home. All right, so I am going to talk about the 10 questions that I thought every transplant recipient should ask the transplant dietitian. So the first one, that's me. The first one, what vitamins and minerals do I need as a transplant dietitian? So what I urge people to do is to talk to their coordinator, their nurse coordinator. And if you are wondering, should I take a multivitamin? Should I take vitamin D? Should I take fish oil? Ask, because it's going to vary from person to person to person, and you need to make sure that these vitamins and minerals are not going to interact with some of your other medications. So that's what I have to say as far as the multivitamin. The vitamin D, you can get a lab done and we can check that and make sure it's where it should be. If it's not, then we'll get an order from the doctor, or we'll order it ourselves to make sure you're getting enough vitamin D. And being in Wisconsin, most of us need vitamin D. I do want to talk about magnesium for a minute. Magnesium tends to be low in transplant patients because of the medications again. So, and magnesium does a lot of things, probably 300 different transactions that are happening in our body have to do with magnesium. But I do know that it helps with our nerve and muscle function. It helps with our bones. So it's pretty important that we get in enough. A lot of transplant patients are being supplemented with magnesium supplements, which can sometimes give you diarrhea. But there are lots of high magnesium foods that we can look at too in supplementing the diet. And when I think of magnesium, I'm thinking of nuts and beans. That's what comes to mind to me when I'm thinking about magnesium, but also bran cereal, oatmeal, some of your spinach, your brown rice, your avocados. That's just a short list. They're all considered high magnesium foods. They have over 40 milligrams of magnesium per serving. All right, foods high in potassium. So the reason I talk about potassium is because a lot of my patients have trouble with high levels of potassium, and which can cause heart issues. Okay, so oftentimes I'm having to give them a list of high potassium foods that I want them to avoid. And here is a list. I have a much longer list, but this is just for the screen. So baked potatoes at top. If it were a boiled potato, it would be less. But take a look at those. It's a lot of dairy products and a lot of fruits and vegetables. Oh, and I thought I had another one, but maybe not. I must have skipped it. I thought phosphorus was in there too. So phosphorus can become low, particularly with the renal patients. And that's kind of a switch for kidney patients, because if they're on dialysis, they're constantly looking at their phosphorus levels and how to decrease their phosphorus levels. So sometimes after transplant, it ends up being low and you have to add in those phosphorus foods, which are things like your dairy products, your colas, and your chocolate. So I do want to talk about sodium. How can I help lower my blood pressure by watching my salt intake? Hypertension is a big problem for transplant patients, and a lot of it has to do with prednisone, cyclosporin, belatacept, and Prograf medications. So we see this a lot. And our diet. Let's see, where do we get all of our salt? Some of it is added at the table, some is added while we're cooking. Majority of it, as you can see, comes from processed foods, boxed mixes, canned products, frozen pizzas and dinners, that kind of thing. I'm going to talk about a little bit more. So what should we do? Lower our intake to at least 2,000 to 3,000 milligrams of sodium per day. When you're looking at a label, I would choose foods that are less than 300 milligrams of sodium per serving. If you're looking at that level of sodium that you want to decrease to, if you're trying to be more strict, the American Heart Association recommends 1,500 milligrams to 2,000 milligrams of sodium a day. And then I would get lower on looking at your labels and making sure that you're less than 140 milligrams of sodium per serving of whatever you're looking at. So we ask that you try to limit the salt at the table and while cooking, because 1 teaspoon of salt has 2,300 milligrams of sodium in it. That's a day's worth of sodium. So when you start adding and you're not measuring, it can add up quickly. So that's why we ask that you slowly get used to not adding salt at the table or while cooking. So some of the things I ask people to avoid, and I will be talking about what can we add in instead, but canned foods like soups, stews, sauces, and gravies are all very high in salt. Frozen dinners, frozen pizza, canned vegetables or not canned, well, canned vegetables, but vegetables that are frozen with sauces like cheese sauces, butter sauces, that kind of thing. Your snack foods like chips and crackers, your packaged foods that actually have the seasoning pack in them, rice, potatoes, pasta mixes. Any kind of cornbread, biscuit, cake mix is actually going to have sodium in it if you look at the ingredients. And anytime you see instant pudding, instant cereal, instant oatmeal, instant cream of wheat, it's going to have some salt in it, okay? Lunch meats, ham, bologna, salami. You see a piece, I know people don't like me using my hand, but a ham the size of my palm has over 1,100 milligrams of sodium in it. Piece of ham this size. That's half of what people should have. Let's see. Spam. I don't know if anybody eats spam anymore, but it's high in salt. American cheese, Velveeta, cheese spreads, all high. Mustard, ketchup, barbecue sauce, all high. All right, so here are some sodium contents of some foods. And I was thinking when I was looking at this list, if you make a ham sandwich with American cheese and have a dill pickle with it, look how much sodium you're taking in, and add a cup of soup to that. You're probably having 3,000 or more milligrams of sodium for just that one meal. So we want you to track your sodium intake by looking at labels. But we need to know what's good and what's not good when you look at all these different terms that they throw out on these labels. Salt-free or sodium-free means that it's less than 5 milligrams of sodium per serving. That's good. Very low sodium, less than 35 milligrams of sodium per serving. That's good also. Low sodium, less than 140 milligrams of sodium per serving. That is good also. But when you look at unsalted or no added salt, it's too high because the food itself has the sodium in it. But what they're talking about is you're not seeing visible salt on top of the bread or on top of the cracker. Does that make sense? Yeah. So don't be fooled by unsalted or no added salt. So how can we flavor our food without salt? We can use juices and vinegar, lemon juice, lime juice, fruit juice, white vinegar, balsamic vinegar. We can use, they have all the fresh herbs out now in the grocery store in the produce section that you can use, and then there's the dried herbs. We can use all different kinds of pepper, red pepper flakes, cayenne pepper, but look out for hot sauce, depending on how you use it. So hot sauce does have sodium in it, and it's okay if you use a few drops here and there, but I see a lot of people use a drop per bite. Have you ever seen that where people add a drop per bite? That's too much sodium. Try some of the salt-free blends, Mrs. Dash, McCormick's, and Penzeys. And I think the Spice House also has a lot of spice blends that are salt-free. And you could make your own blend. I have recipes for spice blends if you need any of that. Restaurant eating gets tough when it comes to low sodium. You can look at the menus, or you can ask for the nutrition information at the restaurant, or you can be proactive and go to the website before you go to the restaurant to see how much sodium is in those menu items. You can be proactive at the restaurant and ask the server, please don't add salt to my steak, please don't add salt to my fries, and ask to have the dressing, the gravy, or whatever like that to be put on the side so that you can dip your food in those things and get less. All right, so here's my alternatives for high salt foods. So when it comes to bacon, ham, and sausage, I recommend turkey bacon or low sodium bacon, which probably has 170 milligrams a serving, not too bad. Canned meats like Vienna sausage, chili, and Spam. How about water-packed tuna or low sodium tuna? Smoked fish and meats, how about fresh fish and meats? And then frozen meals, I would at least look for a frozen meal that has less than 600 milligrams of sodium per serving. Not going to be easy, but they can be found. Canned beans and peas, let's try dried beans and peas and soak them ourselves. And then salted nuts and peanut butter, how about unsalted nuts and peanut butter? The natural peanut butters are going to have lower sodium in them. And then egg whites or the frozen egg substitute, anything greater than 200 milligrams is probably pretty high, but you can always use maybe 2 egg whites to 1 egg. That would be an alternative. Salt, sea salt, kosher salt, onion salt, garlic salt. I do hear a lot of people say, well, I use sea salt, and sea salt is salt. I mean, you may be getting a little less because the crystals are bigger, but still, it's still salt. So I, again, recommend the fresh or dried herbs and the Mrs. Dash, McCormick's, and Penzeys. I do know McCormick's also has mixes, salt-free mixes to make dishes like tacos, sloppy joes, roasts. They also make marinades. You have to look for them though. Ketchup, mustard, did I skip? No, I don't think so. Lemon pepper, I do want to talk about lemon pepper for a minute. Be careful with lemon pepper. It can have salt in it. Look at the ingredients. Some have salt in them, so be careful with that. Ketchup, mustard, barbecue sauce, soy sauce. You can get low sodium ketchup. Vinegar and is a great way to season things. Lemon juice, lime juice are great. And pickles, olives, relish. What about just fresh tomatoes, fresh cucumbers, fresh lettuce? And then salad dressings. I would, ranch, blue cheese, Italian, French, they're all pretty salty, but I would go more towards a vinegar and oil, a vinegar and balsamic oil. Canned vegetables, pickled vegetables, sauerkraut. Well, you can try the salt-free canned vegetables. I don't think they're very tasty, I would go fresh or frozen. Frozen is just as good, but without the added sauces, cheese sauces, that kind of thing. Canned or dried soups. How about making your own soup with maybe a salt, low sodium, or sodium-free broth or stock, or making your own stock with your meat bones? French fries or onion rings. How about baked potato wedges or wedges made in the oven without salt? And then your dried fruits, be careful. Whoops. Your dried fruits can have additives that have sodium in them, but you should be okay with your raisins, cranberries, and prunes that are dried. And then your breads. Well, bread is, if you go down the bread aisle, they're pretty loaded with sodium. You can try and find a bread with less than 80 milligrams of sodium, but at least don't get anything with a salted top. Cereals that have more than 300 milligrams of sodium per serving, and again, instant cereal is higher in sodium. But what about trying like shredded wheat, puffed rice, oats, grits, cream of wheat? That isn't instant. Biscuits, cornbread, and other quick breads are going to have baking soda and self-rising flours, which are higher in sodium. So if you can have homemade bread with a low sodium baking soda, that would be helpful. And then your dried pastas, what did I do? Did I do that?
Probably just hit the escape button.
Okay.
Upper right hand corner.
Sorry. It's gone? No. Okay. Right here, or is it? Sorry.
I don't know where it is.
Thank you. Let's see. Buttermilk is probably the highest in sodium compared to all the other types of milk out there, and yogurt. Your feta cheese, did you know that shredded cheese, like a shredded cheddar, has more salt or sodium in it than a block of cheddar cheese? Your single slices and your string cheese are higher. I would go more for a low sodium cheese like Swiss, mozzarella, Alpine lace cheeses are better. And then regular cottage cheese, pretty high in sodium. You can get low sodium cottage cheese in more like a health food store, Whole Foods or something like that. And then ricotta cheese is okay, cream cheese. That would be better than Cheese Whiz or your other spreadable cheeses. Butter, salted butter, and margarine, I would choose a unsalted butter, tub margarine, liquid margarine, spray margarine, canola oil, olive oil, all better choices. Any questions on the sodium? Yes.
I don't eat processed food or canned food. I make everything fresh.
Okay, good.
So do I need? I put a little bit of salt, so is that not right?
I mean, is your blood pressure okay?
My blood pressure drops sometimes.
Oh.
So low, and you have to skip medication.
Oh, well then I think it would be fine to add a little salt here and there. And if you don't have any swelling in your feet, then you should be fine with what you're doing.
Yeah, because when I go for, this is a pre-transplant, when I go for a lab, then when the numbers, but your sodium, sometimes it's too way off from the recommended.
Do something right.
Oh, okay. You want me to repeat the question? Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was saying maybe if I just cook without salt completely, then I'm going to be out of the range in your body that you need. You need salt in your body as well, right?
You do, but some people have trouble with high blood pressure or fluid on their legs, and that's when they really need to cut down on the salt in their diet. And some of the medications can increase that high blood pressure. It's an individual kind of thing. Everybody reacts different. So I want to ask, how much protein do I need after transplant? So right after transplant, I usually recommend 1 to 2 servings of protein per meal or snack. And that is for about 6 to 12 weeks after transplant, depending on how you're doing. You need the protein for healing. You need the protein because prednisone can break down your muscle mass. So you need more protein. What was I going to say? So these are all examples of protein. 3 to 4 ounces of meat, which again is the size of my palm. 1 egg, 1 cup of milk, 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, half a cup of cottage cheese. All of these are good examples of high protein foods. I do also want to talk about protein drinks, bars, and powders. So a lot of patients, transplant patients, want to take these, and they're okay right after transplant for a little while, for maybe 6 weeks, 12 weeks at the very most, until you're healed properly. But after that, I don't recommend any protein drinks or bars or powders. You don't need them. If you're having problems with weight loss, diarrhea, you might have to restart them, but otherwise I usually say no. Let's see, and oftentimes the powders, the drinks, they can contain a lot of different ingredients. You really need to take a close look at the ingredients. I recommend all transplant patients ask their coordinator if they should be taking these. Give them the product name so that we can check it out to make sure none of the ingredients will interact with the anti-rejection medications. Very, very important. I get this question often. All right. How can I help prevent osteoporosis with the diet? So the problem with the bones is because of prednisone. Prednisone can keep calcium from getting into the bones, and the bones can get weak. So I usually recommend 1,500 milligrams of calcium foods in the diet. So, and these are all good examples of high calcium foods. Let's see, if your potassium gets too high, then we can't do this, and we might have to start a calcium supplement with vitamin D. If you don't like dairy products, that's okay. We can try other things, fortified cereal bars, fortified cereals, fortified juices, and like I said, the calcium supplements with vitamin D. If you're lactose intolerant, you can always try a Lactaid milk or use the Lactaid tablets with your meals to help with that. Vitamin D, I mean, it is fortified in our milk and our yogurt. We can also find it in egg yolks and our fishes, tuna, mackerel, and salmon, which are good fish, which I'm going to be talking about shortly here. How much fluid should I be drinking? So I usually recommend again, I have the little, oh, okay. I usually recommend 2 liters, 8 to 10 cups of fluid a day. Water, 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 please. But if you're not a water drinker, then try and maybe do a few things different to encourage your water drinking. So having a 2-liter bottle available to remind you you need to drink. Adding fruit juice or slices of lemon or lime or berries are a good way to flavor your water. Set a timer on your phone to remind you to drink. Use ice. That's what I have to do to get myself to drink water. Low-calorie popsicles, Jell-O is considered fluids. Drink the bulk of your fluids before 3 p.m. if you're having a problem with having to go to the bathroom all the time at night. And then limit your caffeine. 2 cups of coffee, 2 cans of soda. Try and limit it to that much. I don't like to see all fluids being caffeinated. All right. Any questions so far?
The entire time post-transplant, like never give up on the food?
Fluid?
Yeah.
Please summarize
Summarize?
for the people who are out there.
Okay. So she asked, do the fluid recommendations change throughout the lifetime?
Anybody that's gotten a transplant, is that kind of the lifetime guidelines?
Yes. I mean, certainly there are conditions that can happen, kidney failure, you know, and that sort of thing where they're having to go to dialysis and then their fluid will be limited. Did I do that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just remember, they can't hear anybody but you.
Okay. Thank you. My blood sugars are starting to run high. Yes, sorry.
On the fluid,
Yes.
suppose you take caffeine-free coffee.
That's fine.
So that would be limited to 2 cups as well?
No, no. There is a little caffeine in there yet, but that's okay. I don't count that as a caffeinated beverage. So the question was, if I have caffeine-free coffee, is that still considered a caffeine product? And the answer is no. All right. My blood sugars are starting to run high. How can I change my diet to control my blood sugars? So what we're looking for in blood levels is A1C or glycohemoglobin should be less than 7. And then before meal glucose should be 90 to 130, and peak after meal glucose should be less than 180. Those are our goals at the clinic. Sorry. So first things first, let's limit sweets like cakes and pies and cookies and candies, sugar-coated cereals, regular soda, juice, and let's go more for some whole grain complex carbohydrates. So whole grains, whole wheat pasta, brown rice, fruits and vegetables. Beans are a great complex carbohydrate like pinto beans, black beans, navy beans. Those are all good, fall into that complex carbohydrate list. And let's start limiting our products that contain these sugars. And I have a longer list, but brown sugar, syrup, fructose, dextrose, and sucrose. If you see that OSE, you know there's a sugar in that product. Honey, syrup, and make sure that you're looking at the listing of the ingredients. If it's a first or second ingredient, that means that that product contains the mostly whatever it is. So if it's brown sugar as the first ingredient, it's going to contain mostly brown sugar. We eat a lot of sugar and probably don't even realize it. The U.S. Department of Agriculture says we eat 47 pounds of cane sugar and 35 pounds of corn syrup a year. The American Heart Association is recommending that we limit our sugar intake for men to 9 teaspoons, which equals about 150 calories, and 6 teaspoons for women, which equals about 100 calories. Here are some of our other sugars that are probably hidden in our products. So like fructose, found in mostly fruits and honey, and can be added to baked goods and sodas. Sucrose is table sugar. Agave is a sugar alternative, but it's high in fructose. Dextrose is it's used as an energy, a quick energy. Lactose is found in cow's milk. Galactose is a derivative of lactose. And high fructose corn syrup, I see that one a lot. That's hidden in spaghetti sauces, condiments, that sort of thing. Xylitol, you find that a lot in chewing gum. And then sorghum is like a fiber that's used in alcohol and cereals and baked goods. So if you're using insulin, then we usually want you to be counting carbs. And we usually recommend 4 to 5 carb choices per meal for men, 3 to 4 carb choices per meal for females. What is a carb choice? A carb choice is equal to 15 grams of carbohydrate. And these are good examples of carb choices. 1 slice of bread, 1/3 cup of rice, 1/2 cup of pasta or potato, 1 medium fruit like a tennis ball size, like an orange or an apple or a pear, 1/2 cup of canned fruit, which should be packed in water or its own juice. And then the juice, if there's juice on there, it should be only 1/2 cup, and it should be 100% fruit juice. And a cup of milk or yogurt. Those are all equal to 15 grams of carbohydrate, 1 carb choice. This is how I like to present it. This is a 9-inch plate. Has anybody ever seen the solo cups that are in all the pretty colors, different colors? They're plastic. They're like disposable cups. Well, the Solo makes a plate. It's a plastic plate, it's red, and it's a perfect 19 inches. And it has these compartments just like this. So half the plate should be vegetables. 1/4 of the plate should be your protein, whether it's meat or fish or eggs. The other 1/4 of your plate should be your grains or your potato or your pasta or your rice. You should have fruit on the side and milk on the side, and then a healthy oil to help cook with or add. Now, this plate has 3 carb choices in it: the fruit, the whole grains, and the milk. Those are your carb choices, 3 of them. So this plate is good for a woman. A man, you should double up on one of those: fruit, grain, or milk. This is an easy way. With this plate method, you shouldn't be piling the plate. You shouldn't be going for seconds. Yes.
Where do you get a plate like that? Is it like at a Walmart?
Yep.
That kind of a plate?
Solo plate. Solo plates are like that. They're red, they're plastic, and they're compartmented just like that. So, is it safe for transplant patients to take herbal supplements? I get this question a lot. There is a lot of herbal supplements out there. I recommend that you talk to your coordinator, please, so that they can run it by myself, the pharmacist. Okay, we need to check the ingredients. It's not going to be just one ingredient. They usually add a bunch of different things. They're not regulated by the FDA. Okay, so we really need to look at the ingredients and see if there's anything in them that can interact with the medications. And I want to give you some examples. This is Kava. It's commonly used for anxiety, insomnia, and menopausal symptoms. Look at the FDA issued warning, though, on this one. Linked to increased risk of severe liver damage, hepatitis, and liver failure seen in studies. So, this one is Ginkgo biloba. pretty popular, used to help improve memory, dementia, macular degeneration. It can change the metabolism of your anti-rejection medications, and it can increase your bleeding risk. And then Echinacea, commonly used to treat colds or flus, it can also change the anti-rejection medication effectiveness. Your ginseng, used for lowering blood sugar levels and improving stamina, can enhance the immune system. We don't want to enhance the immune system. We are busy suppressing the immune system so that your organ does not reject. Okay, so we don't want anything that's going to enhance the immune system. And we don't want anything that's going to increase your bleeding risk. All right, any questions on that? Yes.
What about herbal teas? Herbal teas?
How do you spell it?
Herbal.
Oh, herbal teas. Very good question. So she's asking, what about herbal teas? Very good question. I ask, are you drinking any herbal teas? What are they? Because again, they can have a multitude of different herbs in them that we need to check, because there's more than just 4 herbs that interfere with your anti-rejection medications. So you need to ask. I'm okay with like lemon and apple and that kind of thing. But if they have some of these things in them, or if they have St. John's wort or some other odd things in them, I want to look at that. I have a database that I look at, and I go in there and it tells me all about how they can interact with different medications. So I'm a good resource for that. I'll check it out for you. So I encourage you to tell me whatever herbal teas you're taking. My cholesterol and triglyceride levels are elevated. How can I change my diet to decrease these levels? So first of all, you want to limit saturated fat, which is found in like your poultry skin, your bacon, your sausage, your whole milk products, your palm kernel oil, and your coconut oil. And you want to limit trans fat, although they're really working on getting rid of the trans fat in a lot of products. But look at your shortening, your fried foods, your packaged foods, anything where you see hydrogenated fats, hydrogenated oils, that's a liquid oil that's been changed to a solid fat. You don't want that. Eat less cholesterol, so meaning limit your egg yolks. There's 212 milligrams of cholesterol in one yolk. Use egg whites or frozen egg substitute. Limit your high-fat dairy like whole milk and whole milk cheeses. And then limit your shellfish, your shrimp, lobster, crab. And then what do we do with those shellfish? We dip them in butter usually, right? So we want to limit those too. Choose the right types of fat. Unsaturated fats like soybean oil, canola, olive, or sunflower oil, liquid, spray, or soft tub margarines. And try and get more omega-3 fatty acids in by including more fish in your diet, like salmon, mackerel, sword, tuna, flaxseed oil, ground flaxseed. Don't try and eat whole flaxseed. It's hard to digest. Okay, ground. Eat more plant-based vegetarian meals. Use more dried beans and peas. Include nuts as a snack. Almonds, walnuts are good. Use different nut butters, like just not peanut butter. Try almond butter. Try your soy burgers or your veggie burgers. Try to work those in to some of your meals. You can also have high triglyceride levels because of prednisone and Cellcept also. So we want you to do the same things with your fat intake, your cholesterol intake, but we also want you to eat moderate amounts of carbohydrate. Try not to eat all the sweets, the sugary foods, and eat more whole grains, more beans, more whole wheat pasta, brown rice, that sort of thing, the complex carbohydrates. Try and keep your weight at a healthy level. That will help your triglyceride level. Getting more activity in, eating leaner cuts of meats and fish like I was talking about before, and of course limiting alcohol. So why is weight gain common after transplant? Because usually you feel better, and when you feel better, you have better appetite, food tastes better, and the steroids, prednisone, can increase your appetite. So these are some of the reasons why we have problems with weight gain. So what can we do? Of course, we can exercise. It not only helps us with weight loss, but it helps us lower our blood pressure and blood sugar. Aerobic exercise will burn fat. Weightlifting resistance builds muscle. They both increase your metabolism. It relieves stress. Walking, swimming, aerobics, and cycling. Those are all considered to be low to moderate impact. And that, I think, is what really burns the fat more than anything, is that low to moderate impact exercise. So if you're not an exerciser, I would start slow and go maybe 10 minutes a day, maybe take a walk for 10 minutes a day, and slowly add your time each week. Maybe add 5 minutes each week and work up to 30 minutes 5 days a week. Once you're at that 30 to 45 minutes of walking and you feel really good, maybe try and pick up the pace a little bit to maybe a 20-minute mile. That might be a far-reaching goal for some of you, and that's okay. You don't have to reach that goal, but it's something to keep in mind. If you can't work in 30 minutes, there's nothing wrong with going for 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at noon, 10 minutes at night. You'll probably see the same results. How can we avoid weight gain? So drink a full cup of water before each meal and snack. It fills you up. Increase your fresh fruits and vegetables and whole grains. It stays in your stomach longer. It satisfies you longer. And eat regularly. Try not to skip meals. You skip meals, you get hungry, and you go for the wrong things because you're hungry, you want to eat now, right? Take 20, 30 minutes to eat a meal. It takes the brain that long to say, I'm full. I don't need to eat anymore. So the slower you eat, hopefully the less you take in. And use that 9-inch plate method that I talked about before. Choose a consistent place to sit when you eat. Not in front of the TV, not looking at your phone, not looking at the newspaper or your book. Look at your company or enjoy your food. And avoid serving dishes on the table because you don't need seconds. You just need that one plate. That's all you need. Some other tips. Put your salad dressing on the side. Anything like that. You can dip and get less. Put your fork down between bites. Some people count bites. Use fruit as your dessert. Leave a little food on the plate. I don't think mom is going to yell at you if you leave a little food on the plate. And then remove your plate. Walk away from the table when you're done eating and go on to whatever you're going to go on to. So this is how I want you to look at a weight management plan and make sure it's right for you. Does it include all 5 food groups? I love that. It should. You should be able to eat fruit and dairy and breads and pasta and rice and potatoes and still be able to lose weight. Is it the right number of servings from each food group? And I can help with that. Food you will enjoy eating for the rest of your life. I love that too. What are some foods that you will enjoy for the rest of your life? we can work them out so that they're healthy and you can still eat them and enjoy them. Foods you can buy at a regular supermarket, not at a health food store, just a regular supermarket. And make sure some of your favorite foods are on that menu. And foods that fit your budget and lifestyle. And of course, you have to have exercise in your plan. Here's that plate again. I love that plate. But your plate, looking at fruits, choose whole fruits, tennis ball size. So oranges, apples, pears, tennis ball size. Choose canned fruits packed in water or its own juice, half cup serving. And like I said before, choose 100% fruit juice, half cup serving. When it comes to your vegetables, half the plate should be vegetables, whether it's salad or cooked vegetables. Frozen are good, use without sauce. Steam, saute, roasted, raw, they're all good methods of having vegetables. And then your grains, look for whole grains as listed as the first or second ingredient, whether it's whole wheat, whole grain. Your whole grain bread, brown rice, whole wheat pasta are great. Your other things not as good. And then your dairy products, make sure you're choosing skimmer 1%. Milk, yogurt, and cheese. Soy beverages like soy milk are good. A cup serving, that's a normal serving for milk and yogurt. And then your protein foods, lean cuts like chicken, fish, turkey. Other protein sources that are good are your beans, nuts, nut butters, eggs, egg substitute, and soy products or veggie products, burgers, that kind of thing. So what can you do at the grocery store to make sure you're sticking with your program? Stick to the list you have. Don't go while you're hungry. And don't fall for sales. They'll throw you off. Look at the label. A few main points when you're looking at the label. Pay attention to the serving size. And then choose foods with less than 5 grams of total fat, less than 2 grams of saturated fat, no trans fat or hydrogenated fat, and choose foods that have at least 5 grams of fiber per serving. So let's talk about cravings for a minute, because I think we all run into that here or there. Look at the amount of women and men who report food cravings. 97% of women, 68% of men. And look at the most commonly craved foods: salty snacks and sweets, sugar, and fat. And what does it do? It calms our stress and our anxiety of everyday life. Cravings start in the brain, the hippocampus specifically is one part of the brain. And then carbohydrates can boost the serotonin levels in our brains, and then that gives us that soothing effect. And cortisol is a stress hormone that can be released when we're stressed, and that can cause food behaviors, moods, and weight gain. So what can we do? Don't skip meals. Don't skip snacks. Eat balanced meals and don't skimp on your meals. Include a healthy protein every time and a good fat source. Fat source makes you more satisfied. It stays in your stomach longer. And make sure you get some exercise to improve your mood and suppress the cravings. And what can we eat if we're craving salty snacks? How about low salt peanuts, almonds, cashews? What do we do if we're craving chocolate? What about dark chocolate, 70% at least, which has the antioxidants? Cookies, what about fig or protein bars? They have more fiber, they fill you up, they stay in your stomach longer. Bacon, Let's try center cut bacon or turkey bacon. And then pasta, we can try spaghetti squash. I don't know if anybody's tried that. Fries or potatoes, what about sweet potato fries or mashed cauliflower are good alternatives. So I think this is my last question. How can I protect myself from foodborne illness? Anybody have questions? Okay. So I get very concerned and I spend a lot of time on food safety because of this. 76 million people contract a foodborne infection. 325,000 are hospitalized, and 5,000 can die from foodborne infections and illness. I sure do not want my transplant patients to have a foodborne illness. Because what does that mean? They're going to have vomiting, diarrhea, they can't get their meds or fluids in. This is very important. When we talk about pathogens, we're looking at Cryptosporidium. I think about contaminated water. That's the first thing I think about. Anybody here when we had our contaminated water? Was it the 80s? I don't know. Was it the 90s? Early 90s, I think. I had diarrhea for 3 weeks. I lost 10 pounds. Yeah, yeah. E. coli, found in undercooked beef, hamburger, apple cider, raw fruits and vegetables. Listeria, I'm always talking about listeria, found in hot dogs, lunch meats, cold meats, ham salad, chicken salad, those mixed meats. Norovirus found in shellfish, and then again, your salads and sandwiches, that kind of thing. And salmonella, I think about poultry, eggs, unpasteurized milk or juice can be found in those products. So what do we do? And we are at risk for infection. You are at risk for infection because of the medications that are suppressing your immune system. Prednisone, Imuran, Cellcept, cyclosporin, Prograf. So what do we do? Clean, clean, clean is what I want you to do. And I want you to wash hands before food preparation, before meals. Make sure you're spending at least 20 seconds washing your hands. Use hot soapy water. Okay. I usually sing the ABCs or Yankee Doodle or something to make sure I wash my hands properly. Washing cutting boards, dishes, utensils, countertops with hot soapy water, and use paper towel to clean up surfaces instead of a rag or a dish towel or something. It's easier, cleaner. Fruits and vegetables. So anything that's hard, like apples, melons, carrots, anything hard that you can soak in water for a few minutes, I would. And then get the vegetable brush and brush them clean. Make sure they're good and clean. Chilling food properly. Everything hot needs to be above 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Everything cold needs to be below 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Anything in between there is your danger zone because bacteria loves warm, moist areas. And when you're looking at your refrigerator, it's very important to put all your prepared foods on the top shelf of your refrigerator and all of your meats, your raw meats on the bottom, so that if it is going to drip or anything, it's not going to be dripping on your prepared foods. When you are cutting up meat or vegetables, use separate cutting boards, or at least wash after you're cutting the meat and then cut your vegetables. And never put hot cooked meat on a plate where you had marinated raw meat, of course. And then don't reuse the marinade. I don't even care if they want you to boil it or whatever. Please don't reuse the marinade. These are your proper cooking temperatures. Your beef and veal and lamb and steaks and roasts all need to be at 145, and so does your fish. Your pork, your ground beef, veal, lamb, and ground anything needs to be 160. Your egg dishes 160, and your poultry needs to be at 165. So, other common foods to avoid because they are high risk. Your raw or undercooked eggs, like sunny side up, over easy poached eggs. You can have any other kind of egg, and I would not have anything with raw egg in it, like homemade Caesar salad dressing, homemade raw cookie dough, or homemade eggnog. Your regular eggnog in the grocery store is pasteurized. Your bottled Caesar salad dressing is pasteurized. It's okay. Avoid raw sprouts like alfalfa sprouts, bean sprouts. They're just too hard to clean. And then avoid raw tofu, tempeh products, and miso products and miso soup. Miso is a fungus. I don't want my transplant patients having a fungus.
Muted.
So while you're shopping, make sure when you purchase any meats that you're not buying anything past the sell-by date. And make sure you're packaging it so that the blood or anything like that is not dripping on your food.
Unmuted.
Buy only pasteurized dairy products and juices. So some things that could be unpasteurized are apple cider, fresh squeezed juices at the restaurants or grocery stores, and then your soft cheeses like Brie, Roquefort, Blue, Feta, Stilton, Farmer's cheese. Check your packages. Panella, Queso Fresco. You need to check your package and make sure it says pasteurized. Ask at the restaurants, make sure it says pasteurized. Also, I like to make sure that honey is treated. Honey should be treated. If you're putting it in a hot liquid, I don't have as much problem with it, but if you're putting it on toast, I would like to make sure that the honey is treated. And then, of course, when you're looking at canned goods, make sure there's no dents, cracks, or bulging lids. When you're eating out, again, make sure all your meat, poultry, fish, and eggs are cooked solid. Make sure the server, if you want, tell them you want your steak cooked to 145. There's no harm in that. Be proactive. Refrigerate your leftovers right away within 2 hours of purchase or delivery. And I really don't like, I know, it gets hard, but I am not fond of buffets, salad bars, picnics for transplant patients because I worry about people touching the utensils. And if they're sick and not washing their hands, and then you touch the utensils, I'm willing to bet you're going to get sick. I also don't like open bins of hard rolls, muffins, donuts in the grocery stores where people are reaching in to get them. I want you to be served at the restaurant or the bakery. I don't want you to take that chance. I also don't like food trucks, fair food. I'm just really not very trusting in food safety on those things. These are a few resources you can look at that talk more about food safety. I just want to encourage you in summary to please ask your coordinator if you have any questions at all about food, about herbals, about protein drinks, anything, please. They will come to us and they will ask us if they don't have an answer, and we can go and look at our databases and make sure that everything is okay. So I really do encourage you to communicate with us, and we'll find the answer for you if we don't know right away. That's my program. Yes, question.
Is probiotics a dietitian question or a pharmacist question?
That's a good question. So his question is, are probiotics a question for the pharmacist or the dietitian? And that's funny you should ask that because I have an office with a pharmacist. So when the nurses come to us, they come to both of us. So right now, we really don't encourage the use of probiotics in transplant patients. We feel like it can increase your risk for infection. And we just went over that with a nurse coordinator today. The pharmacist could probably explain it a lot better and more scientifically than I can, but we don't recommend it right now. Good question. Any others? Yes.
Yeah, I just want to ask, honey.
Honey. Mm-hmm.
They say it's good than sugar.
Mm-hmm.
So if I use honey, it has to be, for me as a transplant patient, it has to be in a cup of tea, something hot, not just like put on a bread. If that's good, you will.
Sure. So the question is, honey, as a transplant patient, can I just put it in a hot beverage, or can I put it on bread? And my answer is, if it's treated or pasteurized, you can use it any way you want to. If it's not treated, I'm okay with you putting it in a hot liquid. If it's not treated, I'm not okay with that, with putting it on bread or toast or something like that. Any other good questions? Do you have any questions? Okay. All right. Thank you so much for listening. All right.
Well, I want to thank Pam. It was a lot of information, and I think in January, especially when we're hearing a lot about food or making resolutions about food, especially. I learned a lot of new things. So thank you very, very much. And I think they're great reminders. And then in March, we'll be doing a little bit more. March is Nutrition Month. And so actually Judy Meyer is, who's here in the room with us in Milwaukee, will be our presenter. And then actually our May Living Well program, we have someone from UW Extension who's going to talk more about food and nutrition, but relative to farmers markets, with that being in the Advent. And I know, I think we've got 3 awesome food-related, nutrition-related programs. So Pam, I think you've started us out well. Next month, and Judy, could I impose on you to look in your calendar for the date for next month's February program for Living Well? We're the 22nd, February 22nd, we'll be having Janisa Price, who's a transplant psychologist. But as you know, February is Heart Month, but we're not going to talk about cardiac health in terms of the medical aspects of cardiac health, but we're going to talk about kindness and gratitude as it relates to our overall psychological well-being. And I think in today's world, some days there's a little less kindness than other days. And so it'll be a real opportunity, I think, to reflect on that. So I'm really looking forward to that. So I hope all of you in the room, those of you online, will plan to join us in February. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Very good seminar.